The red tally light is already on. The stage left tape mark is inches from his shoe. A producer in a black headset leans into the wing with a clenched stopwatch, mouthing one word, "Rap." Michael Jackson doesn't look over. He keeps his palm on the mic stand like it's the only thing holding the room still. The band feels the pressure through the in-ear talkback. The camera operator sees the producer's hand reach for the sleeve. 10 seconds hangs in the air, heavy as a dropped cue card. That headset isn't just a headset, it's authority. It's broadcast time, sponsor money, the network's promise that nothing goes long, nothing goes off script, nobody on stage gets bigger than the program. The stopwatch is the weapon, the tally light is the judge, and the stakes are brutal. If he gets rushed off stage, it's not just a song cut short. It's control taken in front of millions, an image bruised in real time, a message to every artist watching: the show owns you. Back in the days leading up to that night, the rules were explained in fluorescent hallways and closed-door production meetings, rules written in call sheets and run-of-show grids. A producer slid a paper rundown across a table, tapping a bolded line with a pen. Segment must hit time. A stage manager's binder snapped shut like a verdict. Somewhere in that binder were the things Michael Jackson never liked being reduced to: minutes, beats, and exits. According to accounts from people who worked big live productions, the time police always show up when an artist is too magnetic to manage. A network executive points at a commercial break on a wall clock. A sponsor rep worries about the next ad slot. A director worries about the last camera cue. The producer becomes the enforcer, holding the headset cord like a leash, repeating the same phrase into the talkback button: "Keep it moving." Michael Jackson's camp, by most retellings, didn't walk into rooms empty-handed. There were riders, approvals, camera angles, lighting notes, even discussions about how long applause could breathe after a big moment. The contract pages mattered, but so did something less visible: a reputation for perfection that made crews nervous. When he asked for a certain cue light to hit on a certain beat, it wasn't ego, it was architecture, and architecture doesn't like being rushed with a stopwatch. At a rehearsal run-through, the first warning arrived disguised as a suggestion. The producer pointed to a line on a clipboard and said, "We're trimming 30 seconds." A choreographer's count got interrupted by the sound of a pen clicking. A floor manager lifted a cue card that read "Applause," like applause could be scheduled. Michael Jackson listened without flinching, but his fingers tightened on the mic stand even then, as if he could feel the later grab coming. Pressure has a tone. You hear it in the way someone says "Michael" without warmth. You see it in the way a headset wearer refuses to step fully into the room, staying half in the corridor like a threat that won't sit down. In one version told by insiders, the producer's line was simple: "We're not going long tonight." The "tonight" did a lot of work. It sounded like a boundary. It sounded like a challenge. And there's always the unspoken layer in these stories: celebrity culture wrapped around race, money, and who gets treated as difficult when they demand excellence. The same perfectionism that gets called visionary in one artist gets called a problem in another. The same insistence on full-length performance gets framed as unprofessional when it threatens the network clock. The object isn't just the stopwatch, it's what the stopwatch represents: someone else's claim on your moment. By the final rehearsal, the producer had a new tool: a hand signal. 2 fingers slicing the air meant cut. A flat palm meant exit. The stage left wing became a command post, with a headset, a coiled cable, and a little monitor showing the program feed. Every time the music swelled, the producer glanced at the monitor clock like it was a debt collector. Michael Jackson's response, according to accounts, wasn't a loud argument in the hallway. It was quieter and more dangerous to the system. He asked for one change on the run-of-show sheet. He requested one camera cue be held longer. He let the room feel that he knew exactly what they were trying to do. A single glance towards the stage left wing, towards the headset, was enough to say, "Don't mistake silence for permission." On the day of the show, the call sheet was printed, stapled, and distributed like scripture. The producer's stopwatch was reset. The stage manager's headset crackled. The red tally light was tested. And somewhere near the dressing room door, a final message landed. Whether spoken, texted, or passed through an assistant depends on the telling, but it always ends the same way. If you go long, we cut away. That's the cliff edge. A live broadcast doesn't negotiate once it starts. It obeys the headset. It obeys the tally light. It obeys the stopwatch. And in minutes, Michael Jackson will step onto that tape mark, knowing someone is waiting in the wing with a hand already reaching for his sleeve. The next night, the stage smells like hot cables and hairspray, the kind of backstage air that turns every breath into a countdown. Michael Jackson is 5 steps from the stage-left tape mark when the floor manager raises a laminated card. 30 seconds to airtime. In the wing, the producer adjusts the black headset and checks the stopwatch like a ritual. The red tally light above the main camera blinks once, test pulse, then steadies. Everything that's about to happen is already being measured. That morning, the pressure arrived in layers. First, a short meeting around a folding table with the run of show sheets spread like a map. The producer's finger tapped the paper where his segment sat, boxed in by sponsor reads and a hard commercial break. "We're tight," the producer said, voice flat, headset still on like armor. Someone else added, "If he goes long, we lose the next cue." The word lose was doing too much. They didn't mean a cue, they meant control. Then came rehearsal. Quick, just to check camera, they said. But cameras aren't the only thing that gets checked in rehearsal. Compliance gets checked. The director called out shot numbers. The stage manager counted down with 2 fingers in the air. At the edge of the stage, the producer practiced the cut gesture, 2 fingers slicing across the throat line of the air, like a man sharpening a blade. Michael Jackson walked the stage in silence, eyes tracking the marks on the floor and the lights hung above like a grid of expectations. The mic stand was placed exactly where he wanted it. The chord chart sat on a music stand beside the band. A camera cue light flashed from the side, and he looked at it once, a tiny nod. He wasn't just stepping into a performance, he was stepping into a machine designed to keep him contained. According to accounts from live TV crews, the machine always speaks through someone with a headset. That's the hierarchy. The producer talks to the director talks to the camera operators, the stage manager talks to the floor. The talent is supposed to talk last, if at all. The headset is a ladder, and the artist is supposed to stay on the floor. Step 1 of escalation, the producer starts pre-cutting him before the show even begins. A stage assistant walks up with a polite smile and a sharp message. "We need you to hit the exit on the first cue." Exit, not finish, not breathe, exit. The assistant points to the stage left wing where the producer stands half hidden behind a curtain, headset cord looped around his wrist like a tether. Step 2, the music is treated like a negotiable object. A band leader gets told, "If we're over, you vamp less." A drummer gets a look that says, "Don't extend." The turning point object, the mic stand, becomes a battleground without anyone touching it yet. If the music can't swell, if the applause can't rise, the moment can't grow past the rundown sheet. Step 3, the threat gets said out loud. It happens in a narrow hallway, not on stage, because that's where producers like to deliver ultimatums, away from cameras, away from witnesses who matter. "We cut away if it runs," the producer says, headset still on, as if the rule is coming from the device itself. Michael Jackson's response, in most retellings, isn't a tantrum, it's a pause. He looks at the headset, he looks at the stopwatch, he looks back at the producer. Then he turns away without giving them the satisfaction of a debate. That's the thing about icons. The most frightening move is not yelling, it's refusing to accept the premise. Step 4, allies start choosing sides. A stage manager, usually loyal to the rundown, quietly adjusts a cue timing by a few beats, just enough to give air. A camera operator whispers, "He's going to do what he's going to do." A choreographer tightens the spacing so the performance looks cleaner if it gets cut short. The room divides into people who protect the schedule and people who protect the moment. The headset becomes a symbol everyone can see.
Step 5. The producer changes tactic. Soft power. A smile. Michael, we just want this to look good. It's the oldest line in celebrity culture. Frame control as care. The stopwatch remains in the producer's hand, but now it's held lower, less obvious, like a knife moved behind the back. We're partners, the producer says, headset crackling. But the commercial break is not a partner, it's a guillotine. By showtime, the tension is physical. The stage left wing is crowded. Assistant producers, a floor manager, 2 people with clipboards, and the producer at the center, headset on, mouth near the mic, breathing measured. The red tally light is ready to lock the world's eyes onto whatever happens next. The mic stand is centered like a monument. The tape mark is clean. The stopwatch reads 00, waiting for the first beat. Michael Jackson walks on, and the room shifts the way it does when someone famous steps into light, like gravity changed its mind. The audience noise rises. A camera cue light pops on. He reaches for the mic stand with one hand, and the other hand lifts slightly, palm open, the universal gesture for hold. Not a demand, a command disguised as calm. In the wing, the producer's jaw tightens. The stopwatch starts. He begins, and the band locks in. The camera takes him in tight, face, glove, the edge of the mic. The producer watches the monitor clock. The floor manager holds up another laminated card. 1 minute. The producer leans into the headset and says something we don't hear, but the stage manager's shoulders react, a tiny flinch, like a shock traveled through the talkback line. And now the danger signal appears. The producer steps closer to the curtain opening, not just watching, positioning. The hand that will reach for the sleeve is no longer theoretical, it's at the edge of the performance space, ready to make the show physical. The audience doesn't know any of this. They just see a man with a mic stand and a spotlight. But the crew sees the truth. A producer is preparing to rush the biggest star on the stage, on live broadcast, because the rundown sheet says so. The next 10 seconds haven't happened yet, but the producer's posture says they're coming. The headset crackles. The stopwatch ticks. The red tally light holds steady. And Michael Jackson, still gripping the mic stand, shifts his weight on the tape mark like he's about to decide whether the show is going to own him or whether he's about to own the show.
The producer moves. Not a full sprint, too messy for camera, but a fast, controlled step from the wing to the edge of the light. The black headset cord trails behind like a leash that thinks it's in charge. The stopwatch is still in the producer's fist, thumb hovering over the split button as if time itself is the argument. The floor manager's cue card flashes exit at chest level, angled toward the stage, and Michael Jackson sees it all in one glance: the headset, the gesture, the intention. The turning point object is right there, the mic stand, anchored in place like a stake in the ground. Michael's hand tightens around it. He doesn't back away. He doesn't hurry. He holds the stand steady, then lifts his free hand again, palm out, a clean stop sign aimed not at the audience, but at the wing. It's a small gesture, but on a live stage, it's louder than shouting. The producer's forward motion hesitates for half a beat. According to accounts of high-pressure live TV moments, that half beat is where history lives. A producer is trained to treat talent like a segment. A superstar is trained to treat the segment like a stage. When those instincts collide, the room becomes a courtroom with no judge, only the red tally light broadcasting the verdict. The producer tries anyway. A hand reaches toward Michael's sleeve, an attempt to physically guide him off the mark. It's not a punch, not a crime scene, not the kind of contact that gets written up in police reports, but it's more dangerous than that in celebrity culture. It's a public claim of ownership. It says, "You're done when I say you're done." It says the headset outranks the icon. Michael turns his shoulder just enough that the reach doesn't land clean. He pivots on the tape mark, keeping his body between the mic stand and the grab. The movement is fast and quiet, like choreography, but it's not part of the routine. The band senses it. The drummer's eyes lift. A guitarist keeps playing but leans back, buying space. The director, watching the monitor, has to decide whether to cut away or hold the shot. The producer's headset crackles with urgent voices.
And then Michael does the thing that makes the next 10 seconds feel like a lifetime. He faces forward, toward the audience, toward the cameras, toward the red tally light, and he doesn't leave. He brings the microphone closer. Whether he speaks a line, sings a phrase, or simply holds the silence depends on the version of the story, and not every telling agrees, but the effect is consistent across accounts. He reclaims the stage with control so absolute it makes the producer's urgency look small. The mic stand becomes a boundary line. On one side, the performance, the crowd, the moment. On the other, the stopwatch, the headset, the schedule. The producer tries the cut gesture again, 2 fingers slicing the air, only now it looks ridiculous because the audience is screaming. The floor manager lifts the 10 seconds card, but the numbers can't compete with the noise in the room. The director's camera stays tight on Michael's face because that's what the viewers came for. The red tally light keeps glowing, refusing to protect the producer from being seen. 10 seconds, that's all it is. But 10 seconds on live television is an eternity you either own or lose. Michael takes 1 step closer to the front edge of the stage, still gripping the mic stand as if dragging a flag into enemy territory. The producer is stranded at the border of the light, caught between 2 disasters. Touch him again and look like a bully on camera, or back off and lose authority in front of the entire crew. The headset becomes a liability now, not a weapon, because every crackle sounds like panic. The consequence lands immediately. The crowd reacts like they just witnessed a power shift, because they did. The camera captures it, because the camera loves truth more than schedules. In the control room, someone is forced to swallow whatever plan existed on the rundown sheet. The commercial break becomes flexible, not because commercials stopped mattering, but because the network can't afford to look like it just tried to yank Michael Jackson off stage like he was an overbooked guest. The producer retreats half a step. It's barely visible, but everyone backstage sees it. The stage manager lowers the cue card. A crew member exhales like they'd been holding air since the first reach. The band keeps playing without rushing, the sound widening now that the threat has lost its teeth. If Michael gives a final beat, one last held note, one last stillness, it lands like punctuation. That's the detonation, not violence, not scandal in the tabloid sense. It's a system being forced in real time to admit that it can't fully control a global icon once the red tally light is on. The next morning, the story travels the way these moments always travel, through whispers, through crew calls, through industry lunches where people lean in and say, "Did you hear what happened?" The headset producer becomes that producer, not necessarily named in public. Often these stories float without names, but defined by the role, the person who tried to rush Michael Jackson off stage and learned what live power looks like. In the following week, the network doesn't issue a statement saying, "We lost." Networks rarely confess. Instead, the response comes as policy. New rules get written into run-of-show meetings. Don't step into the light. Keep hands off talent. If it's a top-tier artist, build buffer. The stopwatch still exists, but it's held differently now, more respectful, more afraid. And in Michael Jackson's world, the consequence is subtler but deeper. The moment becomes another brick in the mythology of control. Not the cold control of contracts, but the live control of presence. It tells every producer, every executive, every sponsor rep staring at a clock, there are artists who don't merely perform inside your format, they bend the format around them. That's what the story really reveals. The thesis proves itself in the only place it matters, on camera, in the light, with a mic stand planted like a boundary. The incident isn't just a producer tried to rush him off stage, it's the collision between schedule power and star power, and the reminder that for a few seconds, the audience is the highest authority in the building. Because once the crowd is screaming and the red tally light is locked in, the headset can talk all it wants, the stopwatch can threaten all it wants, the rundown sheet can beg all it wants. The stage belongs to whoever refuses to be moved.